94.5, and I know this is on everyone's mind. 94.5. Why isn't there two, a consistent radio play of Boston artists? Two, why isn't there at least one Boston artist on rotation? Run with it. Is that a good question?
I said as a part of the question you should answer and part of the question I could answer.
You can split it
Want to
up.
talk about rotation? Since that's more your situation.
Yeah, I mean, I had a whole lot of there's a lot of reasons I feel that I actually wrote a lot of things down. I guess what I'll start with, the frustrating part of it is for me, and I'm the music director, so I'm the one in charge of the responsibility of getting records on the air. A station like Jammin', we're a CHR rhythmic station. And what that means is we're a hit radio station. We're not in the game to break records, to start records. We play the biggest records in the country. The way our selection process works, and yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit later about BDS and media base and some of the things that you guys should know about getting your songs on the radar for other radio stations across the country. The way our music meeting starts, basically, is we have a hit list comprised of 15 stations similar to ours around the country. Those stations would be, just off the top of the head, just some of them: Hot 97 New York, Z100 New York, Power New York, Power in LA, Kiss in LA, PGC in DC, The Box in Houston. It's a comprised hit list of their biggest records. So that basically puts together a hit list of all the songs that have the most rotation in the country currently. Then from that, we look at the rhythmic charts and the urban charts. Look and see what songs at urban are really flying up these charts, what songs at rhythm are still doing well, or maybe losing that. From there, realize we only have at one time 23 songs, and that's on the high end, in current rotation. We play the 23 biggest songs in the country. Outside of that, and we play recurrence, a couple old school titles. How all of those songs are judged at every single major hip-hop, R&B, rock, country, whatever your format station may be, is based on call-out. As a DJ, especially first starting in the business, when Roy put me on doing a 1-hour mix show on Saturday nights, I hated jamming. I didn't understand it. Had no idea. Probably not fair just to say jamming. I didn't like commercial radio. I didn't like Hot 97 in New York. I didn't like, Kiss in New York was okay. I didn't understand why I heard the same song played over and over and over again. I now understand why. And it's based on call-out. And I also think it's a reason why the South has had such a stronghold on the business.
Explain to me.
I'm talking about call-out is right now. Call-out is research. Basically, you can have the best record on the planet. You can have the most incredible lyrics. You can be more lyrical than Nas. You can have a beat from whoever it may be, the hottest producer out there. If when the 15-year-old girl in Waltham gets a telephone call and she doesn't recognize the 7 seconds of the hook that they just played for you over the radio, over the phone, your song's not coming back good and call out.
Exactly.
That's how it's based. The only thing that matters to your record is 7 seconds. That's it.
Yeah.
We go, the way research works is they'll call, depends on how much money you have in the budget. Currently we're testing 60. There's been times when we've tested up to as much as 100 people. The way Boston's demographics are set up, majority, we don't test men at all, that's the other thing. We test strictly women. There's other stations that test men and women, like Hot 97 in New York tests just men, Power in New York tests just women. Depends kind of what you're shooting for. Currently, we test just women. In a perfect world, probably 60% white and the other 40 split between black and Hispanic, based on the demographics. If on that 7 seconds, they'll call you up, say, hey, do you have time? I'm gonna play you a bunch of records. If you agree to take the survey, they'll call you up, they'll ask if you fall. Is Jammin' 94.5 your favorite station? If they say yes, they become a P1, which is a core listener, which means that is our primary our listener that we target, which falls into the core. If they say no, they may say, Kiss 108, or at the time WBOT might be my favorite station, in which case they'll say it was jamming your second favorite station. If we fall into the second station, then we're could be their second. So that's how they screen them out. From that
Let
point,
me ask you a question, G. Let me ask you a question, but how do I get my record played on the radio, man?
well, that's what it's coming to. Realize who you are, I guess, as an artist, is my first question. If you want to be a true artist, as I like to call it, and you care about your lyrics, and you care about your beats, and you care about the artist portion of it, realize that your song will probably never get heard on commercial radio at this point. If you're somebody that wants to do ringtone rap and wants to have a catchy hook, there's your opportunity. It's not fair. It's not right, and not necessarily, I don't think it will always be like that. I'm talking about right now.
I think there's alternatives to it.
Yeah, there are, and I would say right now too, I would say the climate of hip hop, I can't get a hip hop song on the radio right now. I'm playing Jay Holiday, I'm playing Mario, Trey Songz. R&B is killing it right now. So the pendulum's also changed. So I would say, if you want to dumb yourself down a little bit, you know what I mean? That gives you the best opportunity to get commercial radio play.
Okay.
Opportunity, you got a show called The Launchpad. You got mixed shows on Jammin' that I personally have showed love to people like Amir, Mantera, Frankie Wainwright, just people that I feel have that buzz, that drive that's out there. It may not be rotation, but it's exposure. And I feel that there's a certain part of radio that we can give that to local artists. I mean, G has been doing this show for a long time, and I think that's a great tool to start. Something like my show or a show that G has on at night, The Takeover, I think records that get on there are artists that I feel that are the buzz of the streets, that are really doing their thing out there, that built it from the streets. Just because your hood likes the record doesn't mean it should be on the radio. So what I feel is, for us to grow, we need to embrace every movement out there.
Right.
And embrace it, even if you don't like the person. It's not about liking somebody.
Right.
It's about believing in the music.
Right.
You like it, embrace it.
Right.
Because it's just gonna make this city bigger. Me and G had a conversation a while ago, like, Brockton can't break a record, Roxbury can't break a record, but the whole Massachusetts can break a record,
Exactly.
or all of New England can break a record. My approach, I think, is you really want to break a record, get out of Boston. Break it in Boston, but break it in Hartford, break it in Providence,
Right.
break it in
Right.
Maine.
Right.
Know that commercial radio isn't the end of all. There are a lot of successful artists out there that have a life and are never on commercial radio, and they're very successful and very happy. One of our good friends, Talib Kweli, I would have to say doesn't get a lot of radio support or love, but me and G play it. Other people play it in their cars. Their loyal listeners play it. So you want to be a big artist, you don't have to sell 1 million albums. Sell 100,000, do an independent deal, get in the streets. You don't get no radio play? That's cool. You get a little bit of radio play through mix show, through specialty shows like G. That's good. You can still survive. There's a very few artists now that sell 1 million albums. We had, last year, 4 rap albums go platinum.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing I want to say too. It's a good point Roy just brought up, because I've never been a rapper or an R&B singer, so I would
Don't lie.
I'd never.
Yeah,
never
you sure about that?
Trust me.
Don't lie.
One thing
Don't
I've never
lie.
done. But I can only imagine how good it must feel. I see somebody like in here, like, man, when you hear your song on the radio, like how that must feel to you. You know what I mean? Like that must be the most incredible rush that you could possibly have. But understand, I think that should not be your first goal. You know what I mean? That should be towards the end of the things that you've built up. And if you're ready and you get to that point and you're ready for commercial radio, and there is WERS, which is, people that don't know, one of, if not the best college radio station in the country.
One of the greatest stations you can get a record on, hands down.
Yeah, and they're a BDS station, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but as much as that is the dream and how good it must feel, just realize that that's towards the end of what you're trying to do. It shouldn't be one of the forefronts or one of the first things you do.
Right. So, good.
What's up? It's your man Roy Barboza, Big Dog Pitbulls, 45 crew. We the best. Shout out to all my team out there. Khaled, Nasty, what's good? I'm out here at the Funky Fresh Conference. You know what's cracking. My man Rusty, he's doing his thing. Make sure you support local artists. Make sure you support them. Tell them what's up. Tell them what's true, because they want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear you, it's hot, it's hot. Tell them what's good, okay? It's coming from Roy Barboza, Big Dog Pitbulls, 45 crew in the building. Y'all heard?
Right? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay. Explain to what record companies are looking for. Can I hand you a demo?
First of all, that wouldn't be my department.
Yeah.
It would be the A&R's department.
But tell the truth. I want the truth. That's all.
It's not going to get listened to.
Right.
I mean, real talk, it's not. It's going to probably get trashed. There's maybe a good 1 in 20 a time if I'm leaving somewhere. Because you get handed 15 demos from guys that all look the same, all say they're the hottest shit ever. And maybe one I'll throw in, you know what I mean? And after the first track or two, it's a wrap. So it's not going to get listened to. Again, that's not my department, so
okay,
maybe an A&R might.
Yeah.
But
What's the system? Tell them what the system is.
Well, let's talk about Soulja Boy. Everyone's, dissing Soulja Boy, and I'm not, a fan of Soulja Boy either, but he is under Universal Music. But I remember when they first played that song for us before I moved to New York and DC, maybe 05 or 06. It was a while ago. It was
Wow.
years ago.
Wow.
And I hated it then. And I was like, this is never going to pop off.
Mm-hmm.
Then that record, YouTube or whatever it was, like 4 million hits or something. You know what I mean? 3 years later, it's the biggest record of all time. I know how it feels for an artist that thinks that, these guys are just walking around, rapping, someone hands them a check and all that. It's not like that. Like, the Party Like a Rockstar kids, all these people have been grinding behind the scenes in their own little Boston community, wherever. And they got so hot there that we couldn't help, or the labels couldn't help but look in that direction.
Exactly.
The ATL and down south, it may be a little bit easier for them just because everyone's looking there now. But there are people in the ATL right now feeling like, man, we can't ever get on, we can't ever get on. People in New York right now are thinking, we can't ever get on, we can't ever get on. Everyone's feeling that, you know what I mean? But if it's hot enough, I guarantee you, if you make, like he said, if you control New England, everyone will be here, be like, who was that kid right there?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, well, this Soulja Boy, but he stayed on it you don't think he's tired of performing that song 3 years later?
Right.
I mean, he stayed on it, and, he found something that worked, and the kids loved it, and he just kept doing it. Rich Boy, throw some D's, he's been behind the scenes. My man Kia Shine with Universal Motown, behind the scenes for years.
Like they do, too.
He's a good dude.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Crispy joint, which people think he's a ringtone rapper, a one-hit wonder, but he could be nothing farther from that. He was doing beats and grinding and traveling to New York on his own money and his own bus for years. But no, the public doesn't see that. They see the end product. Like, who's Kia Shine? Who's Crispy? What is this? This is whack. I'm the hottest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So on the artist development side, on our side is, I think that's what everyone needs to know the most is, if you're hot enough and you really believe your own shit, that you're the hottest thing out, I'm telling you, if you make that buzz, we'll hear you, we'll see you.
Right, exactly. So we're gonna move on to Mike in a second. So basically, which means we talked about Soulja Boy. That's another thing that I see cats do, is that everybody's recording an album. Everybody's putting out an album. But that's not the path. It's working a single, not your album. That's too much force feeding a person to listen to music. People's mindset, when it comes to music, is only this big. They can't consume all that. It's working a single, creating that major buzz for that record, and then you can start feeding people. You're giving them too much, I'd already heard you. You understand what I'm saying? Fair to say, right?
I would agree to that to a point. I mean, I like the mixtape route still. Even
Yes,
though that's
exactly. Yeah.
But if you can show that you have talent, on multiple tracks, but when artists come to us like, oh, I got the album done already, it's like I didn't even want to hear the single.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right.
You gotta make your name first, and maybe it is putting out albums and having all your friends get it, but You know, it's got to be at least, you know, you got to sell some units there, not just like
Exactly.
300 units and say,
Exactly.
yo, I'm the hottest shit out because all my cousins have it and all that.
Mike, you want, go ahead.
Yeah, super question. But isn't there something to be said to have like an arsenal of tracks ready to go? You know, like if you come out with a single and a label likes it, you know, fine, all right, but what else do you got? Like at least you have those albums, like whether you gave it to your friends or not. It's good to have though anyway, right?
No, I agree that, you know, saying, because, you know, artists will say, yeah, I'm hot, I have this, I have this. Now, if you're like, hey, let me hear some more stuff, they're like, oh, that's all I got. That's not good either.
Right.
But, you know, continuously making albums and putting them out there and saying, you know, I've done 5 albums, I'm hot, I can do this, I can do that, without no weight behind it, without no facts behind it. Because especially in this day and age, there's really no artist development per se, which my title is. They gotta, before a major can pick them on and pick them up and even attempt to put any money behind it, before they're gonna try to push them nationally, if they can't even sell in their own market or among their own people, why would we think, or why would the label think that anyone nationally would support them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you should be able to sell to your own people, especially if you know their sound, their swag, their style, their lingo, all that. You know what I'm saying?
Mike Brown.
Let me jump in real quick.
I'm sorry?
That's one second. Listen, everything he's saying, my name is Deshaun, and I mean this Neil, but everything he's saying is true, but not everybody gets a deal that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can get a deal by association, you can get a deal.
Yeah, well, that's 90% of it right there.
Right, so I don't want y'all to feel like you gotta be the mother, I mean, you should be like the mother, you know, the hottest in New England, but not everybody gets a deal that way. I just want to put that out there.
We'll slide to management in a second. Mike Brown, you want to elaborate on that? Mike Brown, Universal. Interscope, right?
Not anymore. Universal Motown. now.
Motown, okay.
Because as you guys can see, the music business is in a very crazy situation, and there's a lot of cuts going on, and
You just got a bigger check, that's all.
Hey,
You just got a bigger check.
Because I was over at one music group for a period of time, and then ended up at Universal. But either way, so just to elaborate, it's rough, but you gotta get your situation organized. Is the way that I look at it, and just get the business portion together. Working a single is probably the most basic thing that we can do at this point, and then seeing if you can get that single to really pop in your marketplace, and then just elaborate from that. Hit Connecticut, hit Maine, hit college radio, see what's going on in that aspect. Because we're not going to really touch it until we know that you're really doing your thing in the marketplace. We have A&Rs in our department at Motown that are just sitting there looking at SoundScan, at MediaBase, seeing what's going on, and if there is something that's sparking in that particular market, then they're hitting me up and saying, you know what, who do you know about this cat here? Find out what's going on in retail, whatever, and that's what it is. Because, hey, Tashawn could probably give you some info in regards to recording costs.
We definitely
we go there, but it's
story.
quite expensive to do that. So now at the end of the day, the labels are just looking for profit. Are you going to make us profit? Are you going to make us money? Are we going to do it on this ringtone? Is it going to be a single deal? Which is happening a lot at Motown. They're doing a lot of one-off single deals, and then depending on how well it does, they'll go with a whole album, full album. One example I was with the Pop It Off Boys this past week, and which is kind of crazy, but their ringtone is just growing. Their whole digital space is growing.
What's that, the Batman song?
Yeah, they're crank that Batman song.